This is an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder.
The successful launch of ChatGPT is pushing big tech, including Microsoft and Google, to accelerate artificial intelligence research. So, what will the applications that ChatGPT and other AI technologies have in our everyday lives? That's a question for Sherri Davidoff, who is a cybersecurity expert and CEO of LMG Security. She joins us via Zoom from Missoula, Montana. Hi, Sherri.
Hi, thank you so much, Peter, for having me on.
Thanks for being on the program with us. As I mentioned on the show last week in jest, I actually typed into ChatGPT the question, "Who is Peter Anthony Holder?" And the response I got back led me to believe that this is probably where George Santos gets his bio information from. I couldn't believe how impressive I was on ChatGPT. None of it true, but impressive.
Well, and the best part is you can say, go on, and it will.
Yeah. So what does this mean for the future? I mean, I'm assuming that where we are right now with ChatGPT, it's in its, shall we say, infancy stage, and it's going to improve. But where is it going, and how will it be an everyday part of our lives?
Well, you're absolutely right that this technology is in its infancy phase, and it has been jump-started. The company behind it, OpenAI, received $1 billion in funding from Microsoft. So that is part of how its development occurred and why we are able to access it today and why it's as good as it is. It is like any tool. A knife can be used for good or for evil. And the same thing is true with ChatGPT, right? And so we're going to see some uses that are extraordinarily beneficial to humans. For example, we can have artificial intelligence comb through medical records automatically and come up with better predictions, better models for diagnosing your issues and for prescribing, drugs and things like that can help make you better, prescribing treatments. So in that respect, it can really help to benefit us. ChatGPT can also handle some of the lower, more entry-level tasks that maybe a lot of humans don't want to do. Some of your frontier, round-the-clock customer support that really could be handled by a smart chatbot. Or, for example, I do a lot of blogs, and I always have to get research interns to help me do the research and comb Google and comb the internet for facts and then summarize it for me. Now, ChatGPT can analyze that information very quickly. And so it really can help us leapfrog to that next level without needing as much labor, which is great.
What are some of your concerns about where this is going, how it can be used in a bad way or by bad people?
Yeah, so I already heard my first advertisement on the radio encouraging someone to use artificial intelligence to make a fake voice for themselves so that they could pretend to be answering the phone when in reality it was just a robot. And so I think that there are some concerns there about who are we really speaking with? And it also, of course, has the potential to free you from sitting around and answering your phone or answering basic questions. People are already using it to write emails, write letters, write policies. I'm sure like some of the basic requests that attorneys get are going to be reduced. And so we're going to start to see some changes in the types of jobs that are available to people. So folks that are experienced in blog writing or in coming up with policies and things like that, they may find that some of the tasks that they're hired to do on a regular basis are no longer available because artificial intelligence will do it. So that's one concern. Another concern I have as a security professional is that we see a ton of data breaches, right? I mean, Peter, you've probably seen in the news that so-and-so hospital gets hit with ransomware, or a public school district gets hit with cyber extortion and all the student information is leaked to the world, right? You've seen those headlines?
Absolutely.
And one of the things that stops that information from being terribly misused is that it takes a lot of time for anybody to go through it, including criminals. Now that we have artificial intelligence in place, and it's only going to get better, it's going to be able to sift through huge volumes of leaked data and make data products out of those, which can then be sold to data brokers or used by nation states against us, or really however the people who get a hold of them would want. And so we are going to have less and less control over leaked information and what happens with it.
You mentioned students earlier, and that's one issue that some people are questioning, the idea of how artificial intelligence will be used by students. I'm old enough to remember back in the day when the world was totally aghast with the idea of bringing calculators into schools. It seems to be similar, but I find it somewhat more nefarious because it's a situation where people aren't necessarily learning. Unlike the math situation, they have to know the rudimentary ideas of math to use a calculator. But this is a different situation where this can write a paper for you, and you don't really need to know literature or composition.
Right, exactly. I mean, I had the same thought as you. I remember the debate when I was a kid about should you have a calculator, should you not have a calculator? You can have one, but only if it's kind of a dumb calculator. And the fact is that those things that I was learning in class, like secant, cosine, sine, I have not needed those as an adult. And if I did, I would be very glad that I had my calculator. I think there's an opportunity for us to think about what are the next level things that we can be teaching children. Okay, you can get someone to research this for you and to succinctly summarize it. Now, how are you going to take it to the next level? Because what I've noticed in what ChatGPT produces is that, number one, it's not always accurate, so you must check it. And number two, and that hopefully will give people critical thinking skills about where do I get my information? You know, that's something we can start prioritizing in our classrooms. How do you vet information? How do you make sure you're using a trusted source and that you don't necessarily trust what ChatGPT or anybody else spits out? And then how do you take it to the next level? What is your own creative spin on this? How are you going to make it different? And I think that is going to be a challenge for teachers, but one that will help us to educate our next generation at an even higher level.
What about those who are really scared about this whole thing and think that, eventually computers will take over?
Well, don't speak badly about our future overlords is what I would recommend. I love ChatGPT and the new, I mean, there is a risk. It's not a surprise that those technology leaders are very concerned about this because there may well come a point where artificial intelligence gets out of control, especially if we give it the ability to actually make decisions in our lives. And so it's very important right now for us to be putting safety mechanisms in place. And that has happened with every single technology that has existed, right? Cars are a great example. Cars did not originally have seat belts. I don't know if you've ever looked at the early history of car safety, but it's hilarious and scary. They actually started putting on the front people scoopers, the idea that if a car hit a person, they could scoop that person out of the way. And that was not very effective. So we really need to probably start doing some research and doing some experiments and understanding what causes AI to get out of control. How can we put some safety mechanisms in place that will enable us to live beneficially with this new technology?
Well, the car analogy is a perfect one because one of the reasons why some of the odd things that car manufacturers wanted to do was the fact that there was a governmental oversight in the safety of said vehicles. Is that something that is necessary in artificial intelligence, a governmental oversight?
I think it would be a very good idea. And in the security industry, we've really seen an unregulated sector. A good example of this is credit card numbers. Back around the early 2000s when people really started leveraging credit cards, we saw a ton of credit card fraud. And there were rumblings of the government legislating this and legislating security around it. And the credit card industry said, oh, you don't need to regulate us. We will regulate ourselves. So ultimately what they did was they formed a consortium. They formed an LLC, really, a for-profit LLC that came up with security standards and pushed those standards, the PCI DSS compliance model, down on people like merchants, on small businesses. And as you saw, for 10, 15 years, we still had rampant fraud, and these businesses paid the price, even though there were better ways to secure it. So I'd love to see us not repeat those mistakes. And again, that's just one example in my line of industry, security and fraud. I think it would be a really good idea for us to have some strong government oversight that's based on, real world science and algorithms, and where they really have the interests of our nation in mind.
So bottom line, if you were to rank it on a scale of 100% and give it either less or more than 50% of a ranking, is artificial intelligence going to be a boon? And I don't mean for the people who use who create it, but for the people who use it down the road. In other words, is this a major advantage to us, or do you still have some caution?
It's both, like any technology, right? I think we will see some major advantages and also some crises that come out of this as well. And we need to be prepared to respond quickly with an open mind and be very adaptable as new developments come out.
Excellent. Thank you for talking to us. By the way, very quickly, what exactly is LMG Security and what do you guys do?
Thanks for asking. We're a cybersecurity consulting firm. We do penetration testing, so we break into organizations and write reports about it. We also do compliance and cybersecurity training. And our website is lmgsecurity.com. If you'd like to contact me, you can reach me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and I also have a few books out.
Excellent. Sherri, thank you very much for being on the program with us.
Thanks so much for having me, Peter.
Cybersecurity expert Sherri Davidoff, the CEO of LMG Security and the author or co-author of several books, including Network Forensics, Tracking Hackers Through Cyberspace, also Ransomware and Cyber Extortion, Response and Prevention, and Data Breaches, Crisis and Opportunity. You can go to my website at thestufffile.com, check out the show number for this program, which is show number 0708, and you'll find the links to Sherri's site, plus to either Amazon.com or Amazon.ca, where you can order any or all three of those books directly.
You've just heard an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder. To hear any or all of the full hour-long shows, visit thestufffile.com. Stuff is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's thestufffile.com. A presentation of Flying Fish Communications.